I want a triple Scotch.
Oh, as bad as that. Why?
Apparently the financial crisis is much worse than we thought. All the Cabinet have got to make cuts in their spending plans.
Oh, Bernard, would you like a Scotch?
Oh, yes. Could I have a large one, please?
Oh, another triple.
Bernard, Humphrey should have seen this coming and warned me.
I don't think Sir Humphrey understands economics, Prime Minister. He did read classics, you know.
What about Sir Frank? He's head of the Treasury.
Well, I'm afraid he's at an even greater disadvantage in understanding economics. He's an economist.
If there's an economic crisis, can't the Cabinet see they've got to be cuts?
Well, they can see they've got to be cuts in other departments, not in their own.
So this morning you ordered a clamp down.
I can't order anything, darling. I'm only the Prime Minister.
You're in charge.
No, I'm not. A leader can only lead by consent. Consensus. That's democracy.
So who is in charge if you're not?
Well, nobody, really.
Oh, is that
There must be. That's what democracy is all about. And as if that weren't enough, I've got a deputation of MPs coming to see me this afternoon about a pay rise I promised them.
What will you say?
I shall say I deeply sympathise, which I don't. They fully deserve their money, which isn't true. And that I shall make it my first priority as soon as the crisis is over, which I shan't. But if they go and vote themselves a whacking great pay rise and then tell everybody else there's no money for their pay rises, it doesn't do very much for the dignity of Parliament, which it doesn't.
But aren't they underpaid, in fact?
Underpaid? Backbench MPs, darling. Being an MP is a vast subsidised ego trip. It's a job for which you need no qualifications, there are no compulsory hours of work, no performance standards. You get a warm room and subsidised meals for a bunch of self-opinionated windbags and busybodies. You suddenly find people taking them seriously because they've got the letters MP after their names. How can they be underpaid when there are about 200 applicants for every vacancy? You could fill every seat 20 times over, even if they had to pay to do the job.
You were a backbench MP only 5 years ago.
I was the exception. I was the cream. I rose to the top.
Do you think what you say will shut them up?
Who knows? But the public will never stand for MPs giving themselves a pay rise when we're having to cut back on nurses and teachers.
Nurses and teachers? Oh, that's a much more serious problem.
No, darling, much less serious. Nurses and teachers can't vote against me till the next election. Backbenchers can vote against me at 10 o'clock tonight. Humphrey, I've just had a very stormy meeting with my backbenchers.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I mean, if I'd had some warning, I could have softened them up a bit in advance. But the paper only arrived the night before Cabinet.
Oh, indeed, Prime Minister. Most regrettable.
Well, it's up to you, Humphrey. You're Cabinet Secretary. You must insist that we get papers circulated earlier.
Alas, there are grave problems about circulating papers before they're written.
Why the sudden crisis? The Treasury must have seen it coming.
Prime Minister, I am not the permanent secretary to the Treasury. You must ask Sir Frank.
What would Sir Frank say?
It is not for a humble mortal such as I to speculate on the complex and elevated deliberations of the mighty. But in general, I think Sir Frank believes that if the Treasury knows that something has to be done, the Cabinet shouldn't have too much time to think about it.
But that's an outrageous view.
Yes, indeed. It's known as Treasury policy.
Suppose the Cabinet has questions.
Well, I think Sir Frank's view is that on the rare occasions when the Treasury understands the questions, the Cabinet doesn't understand the answers.
Prime Minister, I'm doing a paper on this civil service pay claim, but if it's really urgent, I can give you an immediate response.
Yes, please. What's your answer?
I haven't got an answer, more a series of questions.
What, for me?
For Sir Humphrey. The claim is clearly self-serving and inappropriate, and is significant for the questions it leaves unanswered.
Right, fire away.
All right, but I think you should treat this as highly confidential, or you'll never catch Humphrey out. First of all, you should ask what deduction...
Yes? Terrific.
George, that's for you, I think. All right for me to go in, Bernard?
Yes, Sir Humphrey, can I just mention one thing?
Yes? Bernard?
There has been movement.
On what subject?
On a subject on which the civil service hoped there would be no movement.
The civil service generally hopes there will be no movement on any subject.
Yes, Sir Humphrey, but what I mean is, it's in relation to a subject which is normally wholly and exclusively within the control of the civil service that developments have developed.
You're speaking in riddles, Bernard.
Oh, thank you, sir.
That was not a compliment, Bernard. Make yourself clear, please.
I'm sorry, Sir Humphrey, my lips are sealed. I am referring confidentially to minutes that I was duty-bound to make of a confidential conversation between the Prime Minister and one of his confidential advisors.
Which advisor?
I'm sorry, Sir Humphrey, I'm not at liberty to divulge her name.
Thank you, Bernard. And this confidential advice was to do with the financial crisis, was it?
Oh, no, Sir Humphrey, much more important.
Not his silly nuclear strategy.
Much more important.
You don't mean the civil service pay claim. See, what do you advise, Bernard?
Well, I advise you consider your position carefully, perhaps adopting a more flexible posture while keeping your ear to the ground, covering your retreat and watching your rear.
Thank you, Bernard. You've been a great help.
Actually, Sir Humphrey, I haven't told you anything.
I should hope not, Bernard. That would have been most improper.
Prime Minister, Sir Humphrey's here.
Flexible.
Ah, Humphrey. Come in.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Tell me what you think of this. Oh, what do you make of it?
Well, it is rather a large document for
You-
an instant judgment.
You only have to read the one-page summary at the top.
Well, good.
Well? Well?
Prime Minister, you place me in a very difficult position.
Do I, Humphrey? Now, look, I realise you have to have loyalty to your colleagues, but you also have a broader loyalty to Cabinet and its policy.
I agree.
You agree?
Yes,
You agree with me?
I agree with you.
I don't quite... Who do you agree with?
With you?
Not with Sir Frank.
No?
You're not arguing with me.
No? Perhaps I haven't made myself quite clear. I agree with you.
Well, what do you make of that pay claim?
Well, it's not excessive in itself, but at a time of national stringency, it is neither wise nor in the national interest. I don't like to criticize my colleague, but in my view, Sir Frank, though no doubt acting from the best of motives, should have placed the good of the nation before the narrower sectional interest of civil servants. You see, this claim raises serious questions.
That's interesting, because I've made a note of some questions, too.
Aha. Good questions. Where do they come from?
Occurred to me.
Yes. Well, they're very good questions. Well, if you insist on an even-handed approach, the Foreign Office might agree to your abstaining on the matter of Israel, so long as you authorize our man there to make a powerful speech attacking Zionism.
Surely we should use the debate to promote peace, harmony, goodwill.
Well, it'd be most unusual. The UN is the accepted forum for the expression of international hatred.
What about defending democracy on St. George's Island?
Well, not if it harms British interests by upsetting those whom we wish to keep as friends.
Humphrey, are you saying that Britain should not support law and justice?
No, of course we should, Prime Minister. We just shouldn't let it affect our foreign policy.
We should always fight for the weak against the strong.
Well, then why don't we send troops to Afghanistan to fight the Russians?
The Russians are too strong.
What was that you were saying about law and justice?
Be that as it may, Humphrey, I want assurances sent to the democratically elected Prime Minister of St. George's Island that Britain will stand by him.
Well, perhaps you'd like to discuss this with the Foreign Secretary.
Thank you, Humphrey.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
You've been a great help. Bernard,
Yes, Prime Minister.
where exactly is George's Island?
Shall we look at the globe? There's one in the private office.
Good idea. Good afternoon, Luke.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
Now, where is it?
Well, it's here, in the Arabian Sea.
Right near the Persian Gulf.
Yes, the lifeline of the West. And look, there's Afghanistan, which is now under Soviet control. That's only 400 miles north of the Arabian Sea. If the Soviets ever took Pakistan...
Which they wouldn't.
Well, if they did, they would control the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. And the Soviets have always wanted what they call a warm water port.
But there's no risk. They wouldn't invade Pakistan. And anyway, the Americans have a fleet permanently stationed here. The Indian Ocean.
Prime Minister, may I have a word with you about home affairs?
Home affairs?
Yes.
Couldn't it wait? We're discussing foreign affairs.
No, Prime Minister, it's rather urgent.
Bernard?
Yes, Prime Minister, please.
Oh, very well. Excuse me, though. What's the matter, Bert?
Well, I don't want to be disloyal or anything. I didn't think it was an awfully good idea to continue that conversation in front of Luke.
Luke, why?
Security.
Well, he's your colleague. He's one of my private secretaries. What on earth is MI6 up to, allowing such a
Prime
thing?
Minister, he's not that sort of security risk. It's just that he works for the Foreign Office.
He works for me.
Yes, but he's not only your man from the Foreign Office, he's also their man in number 10. He's a plant.
Oh,
Do you understand?
yes. No. Bernard, are you telling me the Foreign Office is keeping something from me?
Yes.
Well, what?
I don't know. They're keeping it from me, too.
Well, how do you know?
I don't know.
You just said that the Foreign Office was keeping something from me. How do you know if you don't know?
Well, I don't know specifically what, Prime Minister, but I do know the Foreign Office always keep everything from everybody. It's normal practice.
Who does know?
May I just clarify the question? You are asking who would know what it is that I don't know and you don't know, but the Foreign Office know that they know, that they are keeping from you so that you don't know, but they do know, and all we know, there is something we don't know and we want to know, but we don't know what because we don't know. Is that it?
May I clarify the question? Who knows Foreign Office secrets apart from the Foreign Office?
Oh, that's easy. Only the Kremlin.
Don't let it upset you, Jim. We're used to it. It happens all the time.
I told them to abstain.
Well, it's well known that in the British Foreign Office, an instruction from the Prime Minister becomes a request from the Foreign Secretary, then a recommendation from the Minister of State, and finally just a suggestion to the Ambassador, if it ever gets that far. Thank you. L'chaim.
Cheers.
Well, Jim, what are you going to do about St. George's?
You know about that?
Obviously.
Not a serious problem, is it?
Isn't it? Well, your information must be better than mine.
So mine comes from the Foreign Office.
Israeli intelligence says that East Yemen are going to invade St. George's Island within the next few days.
What? So that's the connection.
Now, your Foreign Office have agreed with East Yemen that they'll make strong diplomatic representations but do nothing. In return, the Yemenis will let you keep your airport contract after they've taken over.
There'll be uproar.
But that's only the start. I happen to know from our ambassador in Washington that the Americans are going to support the present government at St. George's.
In the UN?
No, in battle on St. George's Island. They'll send in an airborne division backed up by the 7th Fleet.
The Americans invading a Commonwealth country? The palace will hit the roof. And I shall look ridiculous. Why didn't the Americans tell me?
They don't trust you.
Why not?
Because you trust the Foreign Office.
Oh, I see. What can I do about it?
Well, Jim, you have an airborne battalion on standby in Germany that is not now needed for the NATO exercise.
How do you know?
I know. Now, if you were to send it to St. George's Island, it would frighten off East Yemen. They'd never dare invade. Of course, it's not for the Israeli ambassador to advise the British Prime Minister.
And he wouldn't take your advice anyway. Get me the Foreign Secretary, and then the Defence Secretary, please. I wonder the Foreign Office didn't cover themselves. Maybe they did. They gave me several boxes tonight. I've been through them all except this one. I wonder if this could be it. Northern Indian Ocean Situation Report. It's 138 pages. It must be it. Hello? Yes, Ronnie. I want the President of St. George's Island to extend an invitation to Britain to send an airborne battalion on a goodwill visit. No, just a friendly gesture. Goodwill. Yes, at once, please. Thank you. You seem to think that 800 fully armed paratroopers was an awful lot to send on a goodwill visit.
No, it's just an awful lot of goodwill.
Oh, yes, Paul. You know you have an airborne battalion on standby in Germany. Yeah. Never mind how I know. Well, since it's not being used, I want them to fly straight off to St. George's Island. Sort of between Africa and India. A goodwill visit. You're just showing the flag. They have been invited. Yes, leave in 6 hours. Yes, an instant goodwill visit. Tell your press office to announce it at once. No. Leave me out of it. A routine visit. All right? A routine surprise visit. Well, say they were invited earlier, but the NATO exercise got in the way, and now they're not needed, they're going anyway. Well, all right. Nobody knows it's not true. Press statements aren't delivered under oath. They'll be off at midnight.
Prime Minister.
Ah, Humphrey. Sherry?
Yes, thank you.
Humphrey, what's a modernist in the Church of England?
Ah, well, the word modernist is code for non-believer.
You mean an atheist?
No, Prime Minister. An atheist clergyman couldn't continue to draw his stipend. So, when they stop believing in God, they call themselves modernists.
How could the Church of England suggest an atheist as Bishop of Bury St Edmunds?
Well, very easily. The Church of England is primarily a social organisation, not a religious one.
Is it?
Oh, yes. It's part of the rich social fabric of this country. So bishops need to be the sort of chaps who speak properly, know which knife and fork to use. The sort of people one can look up to.
So that's what Peter meant when he said that Canon Stanford's wife was eminently suitable.
Of course. Cheers.
Is there really no other possible candidate?
Well, not really. There were a couple of better jobs available recently, you see.
What's better than a bishop? A rook?
Very droll. No, well, the Dean of Windsor is a better job, or Westminster. Such preferment enables one to be on intimate terms with the royals.
Being a bishop is just a matter of status. A question of dressing up in cassocks and gaiters.
Yes, though gaiters are now only worn at significant religious events, like the Royal Garden Party. Well, the church is trying to be more relevant.
To God?
No, of course not, Prime Minister. I meant relevant in sociological terms.
So the ideal candidate from the Church of England's point of view would be a cross between a socialite and a socialist.
Precisely.
Let me just interrupt. May I give you the career details of Canon Stanford?
Yes, please do.
Well, after theological college, he became chaplain to the Bishop of Sheffield. He moved on to be the diocesan advisor on ethnic communities and social responsibility. He also organised conferences on interfaith interface and interface between Christians and Marxists and between Christians and the women of Greenham Common. Then he went on to be the university chaplain at the University of Essex, then vice principal of a theological college, and is now, as you know, secretary to the Disarmament Committee of the British Council of Churches.
Has he ever been an ordinary vicar of a parish?
Good heavens, no, Prime Minister. Clergymen who want to be bishops try to avoid pastoral work.
So what you're saying is that Canon Stanford is a political troublemaker.
Well, not exactly, but it could be a thorn in your side on several issues. Strikes, public expenditure on welfare, inner cities, unemployment, defence. It's interesting, isn't it, that nowadays politicians want to talk about moral issues and bishops want to talk politics. And he'd speak with the authority of a bishop and as a member of the Lords.
He designed a new church in South London, and on the plans were places for dispensing orange juice, family planning, and organising demos. But no place for Holy Communion.
Are you serious?
Well, there was a dual-purpose hall in which you could hold a service.
And the church approved this?
Well, of course. You see, the church is run by theologians.
How do you mean?
Theology is a device for enabling agnostics to stay within the church.
I don't want Canon Stanford. What am I to do?
Well, you could turn both candidates down, but that would be exceptional and not advised.
Even though one of them wants to get God out of the Church of England and the other wants to get the Queen out?
Well, the Queen is inseparable from the Church of England.
What about God?
I think he's what's called an optional extra.
Good evening. News is just coming in that after 2 weeks in Qumran, the Dean of Bailey College, the Reverend Christopher Smythe, has succeeded in obtaining the release of Fiona McGregor, the British nurse held there in prison. Miss McGregor was being held awaiting a sentence of 40 lashes for the alleged crime of possessing a bottle of whiskey. Both she and the Dean are expected back in England tomorrow. And now for the rest of the news. The pound had another bad day.
So, it's true.
I can't believe it.
It's a disaster.
Disaster! Whose idea was it to send that meddling parson to Qumran?
Can't imagine. Bishop of Banbury, perhaps.
We have the situation completely under control at the Foreign Office.
Yes, of course you did.
We made our protest. The nurse would have been quietly flogged and stuffed into some Qumrani jail. And within a couple of weeks, the press would have forgotten about the whole thing.
Still, no real damage done.
Well, there's terrific damage to the Foreign Office. We've almost got agreement to set up a signals listening post in Qumran. We said we wouldn't make any more fuss about the nurse if they signed. Now we've lost our best bargaining counter.
Well, you could always find another nurse and plant a bottle of scotch on her.
I don't think we could do that.
No, it wouldn't be right.
No, it's too dangerous. Still, at least it's got that nurse's ghastly mother off my back. Yeah. She's been writing and phoning and telling the press that we haven't been doing anything.
Extraordinary.
And the press have taken her part. They've been going on about being more patriotic.
Extraordinary.
I've said a lot of unpleasant things about the Foreign Office, but we've never been accused of patriotism.
You know, sometimes I can't quite believe the newspaper's abject ignorance of diplomatic realities. But we may have a problem with the PM now, you know.
You mean because we advised him against sending the clergyman out there?
And because you advised the Foreign Secretary to tell the Cabinet that it was impossible to get that nurse released.
And we were right. If we left it to the Foreign Office, it would have been impossible.
But you see what's going to happen now. The press is going to say that the Church succeeds where the Foreign Office fails. And they're going to dig out all the old cuttings about ambassadors' Rolls Royces and £4 million embassies and school fees at Eton paid for by the taxpayer. And what does Britain get out of it all?
Don't.
Well, there you are.
I know what we'll do.
What?
We'll tell the press that it was the Prime Minister's initiative to send the Dean.
Oh, good idea. PM will enjoy taking the credit.
But you don't think there's any danger of the PM's denying it just because it isn't true, is there?
None at all.
And then for the Sundays, we'll leak the idea that the Foreign Office suggested it to him when we found all the diplomatic channels blocked.
Perfect. That way nobody gets the blame and everybody gets the credit.
Except the person who really thought it up.
Oh, well, I don't mind. I don't mind that he doesn't get the credit, whoever he is. Excuse me. Prime Minister.
Yes, Humphrey. There's something I want to talk to you about, something very secret.
Would it be easier if I wasn't here?
A few years ago, there was a security inquiry. Does the name Sir John Halstead ring a bell?
Yes, of course. In fact, I had to conduct the inquiry myself virtually.
And you didn't find evidence of anything incriminating?
Of course not. In the first place, John Halstead was one of us. We'd been friends for years. In the second place, the whole story was got up by the press. And in the third place, the whole object of internal security inquiries is to find no evidence.
Even if the security of the realm is at risk?
Prime Minister, if you really believe the security of the realm is at risk, you call in the special branch. Government security inquiries are only used for killing press stories. They're to enable the Prime Minister to stand up in the House and say, we've held a full inquiry and there is no evidence to substantiate these charges.
What if you had found something suspicious?
Well, Prime Minister, practically everything that happens in government is suspicious. I mean, the fact that you asked Bernard to leave us alone for a secret conversation might be construed as suspicious.
Indeed.
But in any case, the whole story was quite clearly a nonsense. Typical Fleet Street sensationalism.
So there's no possibility that Sir John Halstead was passing secrets to Moscow?
Impossible. Out of the question.
You'd stake your reputation on that?
Without hesitation.
I see. Well, I'm afraid I have to tell you that for a substantial part of his career, he was a Russian spy.
I don't believe it. Who says so?
He does. He left all his papers to the government, including a detailed confession. MI5 says it's absolutely true. Checks out all along the line.
But good Lord, he was
One of us?
Exactly. This certainly leaves a lot of questions to be asked.
Yes, and I'm asking you the first of them. Why didn't you ask him a lot of questions? And why did the inquiry exonerate him, and so quickly?
Well, I've already told you. Anyway, we were very busy. Besides... Good Lord, you don't think... I mean, surely nobody suspect... What else was I expected to do?
You could have held a proper inquiry. After all, you had evidence of his surprisingly long stay in Yugoslavia.
Yes?
And shortly afterwards, several MI5 agents behind the Iron Curtain were rounded up and never seen again.
Yes.
He spent a lot of time with one particular interpreter.
And she turned out to be a Russian agent. Yes, we knew that. Most Yugoslav interpreters are Russian agents. Those who aren't with the CIA, that is.
You never followed it up?
But I had better things to do with my time.
3 months later, she moved to England and settled in Cambridge, 150 yards from Sir John Halstead's own house. They were neighbours for the next 11 years.
Crikey. You can't check up on everything. You never know what you might find. I mean, if you've got that sort of suspicious mind, you ought to...
Hold security inquiries?
Yeah, no. John gave me his word, Halstead. The word of a gentleman.
Anyway, Humphrey, I have a problem.
Problem?
You.
Me? You don't think... You couldn't think... I don't speak a word of Russian.
Well, you must admit it was either incompetence or collusion.
Collusion! I give you my word, Prime Minister, it wasn't collusion.
The word of a gentleman?
Exactly. An Oxford gentleman.
You've been briefed by MI5?
Indeed, Prime Minister.
Bad business.
Unfortunate.
Disastrous, I'd say.
Oh, not disastrous. Surely it will never come out.
You mean things are only disastrous if people find out about them?
Of course.
Even if the Cabinet Secretary is a spy?
But I'm happy to say that is not the case.
How can you be so sure?
MI5 have just come across this in the Halstead papers from his private diary.
Another session with that prize goof, Appleby. Fooled him completely. He never asked any of the difficult questions. Didn't seem to have read the MI5 report. So much wool in his head, it's child's play to pull it over his eyes. That certainly
Exonerates Sir Humphrey.
Arnold. Can't tell you how happy this makes me.
Shall I...
No. I'll keep this.
Then I take it there's really nothing for me to investigate after all.
Well, apparently not. Not on security grounds.
Good. Then in that case, I'll take up no more of your time.
Hold on. There's still the question of incompetence.
Well, of course, Prime Minister, we all make mistakes.
Well, not on that scale. Do you think I should sack him?
I hardly think so.
Why not? Don't you think civil servants should ever be sacked?
If they deserve it, of course they should, in principle, but not in practice.
Why not?
There would have to be an inquiry, and all inquiries into the incompetence of civil servants somehow seem to lead back to mistakes by ministers.
On second thoughts, leave it with me.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Sir Humphrey's outside.
Show him in, Bernard. Show him in. Goofy. I'm happy to tell you that you've been cleared of spying.
How?
Something Sir John Halstead wrote.
Oh, that's very gratifying.
Isn't it? I knew you'd be pleased.
May one see the document?
One certainly may. Better still, one can have it read to one. May the 28th. Another session with that prize goof, Appleby. Fooled him completely.
Yes, I see. Well, thank you, Prime
No.
Minister.
Goes on, Humphrey. Clears you even more. He never asked any of the difficult questions. Didn't seem to have read the MI5
Yes, well,
report.
that's quite clear. Thank
so
you very
much
much.
wool in his head, it's child's play to pull it over his eyes. Isn't it wonderful? You must be a very happy man.
I always said Halstead was a hopeless judge of character.
You mean we can't believe this? He was lying?
Oh, no, absolutely true. True, that is in the sense of... You see, he wasn't bright enough to understand subtle questioning techniques, the non-confrontational approach.
You lulled him into a true sense of security.
No.